I do. KJ, are you with us?
Yes, I am. How's the sound?
Excellent. Thank you for joining us,
Great.
KJ.
You're welcome. Good to be with you.
Absolutely. I'm Shane. One thing, I just need his bio information.
All right, I'm going to post it into our chat there, okay?
Okay, very cool. Thank you.
That is in.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. All right, so we can get this. Let's get this started. Okay. All right. All right. Let's start now. Welcome back to Fault Lines. My name is Jamarl Thomas. I'm joined by my co-host Shane Stranahan, coming to you live out of our station in Washington, D.C. Joining us is journalist, political analyst, writer, and teacher specializing in geopolitics of Asia-Pacific region. He is a contributor to the book Capitalism on a Ventilator. Once censored by Amazon, it is available at miacenter.org. The person I'm talking about is KJ No. KJ, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Every time we call you, it seems like things have gotten just that much worse. So yesterday, apparently, 18 people were killed in protests, basically police repression that is clamping down on a society that is pushing back against the coup. 40, apparently, since all of this has taken place since February the 1st. Aung Suu Kyi, she's, of course, still captured. Apparently, they've added additional charges to her. Where does this go from here? Because it seems like the public is not going to relent, and it seems like the military is very serious about maintaining power. And apparently, it really did believe its power was in jeopardy.
Yes. This is always the tragedy of military coups. When I was last on your show, we had said that bloodshed was imminent. And this is what we're seeing. So, on the ground, there's mass fear and terror. People are not able to sleep. There is a daily curfew from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. And of course, from around 1 a.m. to 9 a.m., all the communications are shut off. This is the kind of psychological warfare. The internet and the phones work during the day, but at night they're shut off. And during this period when they're shut off, people are taken away. So above and beyond the overt bloodshed, the military shooting people in the streets, there's a constant process of psychological warfare that is terrorizing people. Where does this go from here? That is the $64,000 question. The military does not look like it will back down. They've done this before. They are immune or resistant to sanctions. They've lived with sanctions for decades. They are not afraid of them, or at least that's what they say. On the other hand, there's significant pain, anguish, and challenge to the military at this current moment. So all we have to say is we have to wait and see. And to be honest, we have to, keep our best thoughts and prayers in mind.
And the UN is poised to get involved. The casualties at this point are in the dozens. I believe please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the last such uprising against the government was in 1988, over 30 years ago at this point. And back then, estimates vary, but anywhere between several hundred to around 10,000 people died. If you sort of take the median of that, it's somewhere in the thousands. Clearly, we're still far from that point, but is the concern that we could reach that again? And if the UN decides to get involved, KJ, what effect do you see that having in Myanmar?
Those are also really good questions. We know that in 1988, there were at least, the best estimates are that the death toll was in the thousands. Currently, the death toll to date is 50, with 38 killed. on Wednesday alone. But remember, the military pulled out its light infantry divisions and sent them into the city. These are battle-hardened troops who were fighting a counterinsurgency, who were racking up these kinds of death tolls daily, even before this news coverage happened. This was with the conflict with the ethnic minorities. So there is very little that would keep things from escalating even further. The UN has made some very strong statements. It's organizing itself to have a kind of collective action against Myanmar. But to be honest, the military holds the cards. They were the ones that granted this partial democracy to the civilian government. They're the ones who will take it away at whim. The coup clause is written into the constitution that the military drafted decades ago. This is the current constitution. And believe it or not, the military is showing relative restraint in that they're not indiscriminately using live ammunition. They're using slingshots and rubber bullets as well as live ammunition. But I think more pressure will not dissuade the military. I think things have the possibility to escalate in a very, very bad way.
Well, right there for the moment, why is the military showing restraint? I mean, is it one of those things where they're worried about, let's say, outside perceptions in a way that, I mean, I've made the argument that social media is kind of a pressure that is put when everybody can see what is taking place at any particular moment, that it's a pressure. And I'm wondering if the military is using restraint because of that very specific reason, that the eyes of the world are basically watching. This is the UN ambassador to Myanmar, at the very least he was. I want you to listen to this for a moment. This guy makes a plea and basically says, look, help us by any means necessary in order to get across the severity of the situation. There, let's play the clip.
Regard, we, the committee representing Chirongsu Luto, CRPH, duly urge the United Nations Security Council, and international community that aspire to build peaceful and civilized global society to use any means necessary to take action against the Myanmar military and to provide safety and security for the people of Myanmar. In addition to...
That's an astonishing statement. He is basically saying, help us by any means necessary. And that is very broad, meaning whether that's military intervention, whether that's, of whatever that means, that is pretty broad and pretty strong statement. Is there anything that anybody can do outside of Myanmar to help Myanmar? Like, meaning whether that's political pressure, let's say leveled by China, for example, the relationship between China and Myanmar, does it allow any kind of soft pressure to be applied? I mean, is it just one of those things that the Myanmar military is absolute in this? And yeah, they may be taking things easy from the standpoint of not wholesale killing, but at the end of the day, there's nobody that can do anything to really intervene. Is that where we are? Meaning basically the people who are out there are going to have to just stay out there until, a choice is made that the military either satisfies itself in the amount, we can't kill any more people, or the public relents, or, you know what I mean? There has to be some kind of resolution between the two. And I'm asking, is there anything outside of Myanmar that would affect the situation?
So to answer your question regarding why the military has been relatively restrained, and once again, it may not seem like restraint, from the outside, but these are battle-hardened counterinsurgency troops that have just come back from the countryside raping and killing people. So everything is a relative, it's a relative index. But inside that, this is my guess. The military felt like they did have a legitimate cause when they pulled the coup. there were between 1.5 million to 2.5 million votes that were suppressed. Now, people are saying that there was no vote fraud, and that is probably correct. There was probably not a lot of vote fraud on the day of the election, but there was massive vote engineering and suppression prior to the election. And the military had demanded or requested many times to the civilian government to look into these allegations. They were shut down completely. And the military, knowing the balance of power, simply decided to show the civilian government that they were still boss. What will the military do in the face of political pressure? We know that China is already engaging its back channels. The Chinese want the return of civilian government. They were very happy with the relations with the civilian government. That was why they inked 33 deals relating to the Belt and Road last year. Xi Jinping actually visited Myanmar last year. So the Chinese want stability, and they want things taken back to the status quo ante. But the problem is that there are multiple factions involved. Right now, we're looking at a crossfire hurricane. The armed ethnic organizations could see this as an opportunity. Certainly the United States see this as an opportunity to sow chaos and to disrupt. And depending on the skill of the United Nations, this will either be de-escalated and the military will give a certain deadline to return to elections and, and to a civilian rule, or if there is, mass denunciation, my feeling is that the military will harden its line. As they've said, we are not afraid of sanctions. We've lived through them before, and ultimately we hold power.
KJ, we only have about a minute left here. I will be brief on my end. Last time we had you on, you brought to light, for anybody who knows about this, it is obvious, deep, long-lasting, decades-long divisions along ethnic lines with dozens of different minorities who have competed with each other and obviously are competing with the government in a large way. One of the things we were worried about was that there would be inter-ethnic violence during these protests. I'm curious, two fronts, about 30 seconds to answer here, sorry. I'll just keep it to one. Have we seen that? Have we seen, killings not between police and protesters, but between protesters along ethnic lines? KJ.
Not that has been confirmed, although we have seen, once again, people in saffron robes attacking protesters. This has already happened. So there are deep ethnic divisions. They go back to the very founding of the state, which was built as this chimeric state by the British. The British ruled it as a military occupation. They created a precedent for massive military occupation and then ruled it as an ethnicity-based hierarchy. Those divisions have not gone away. So on the one hand, you have the civilian-military conflict. On the other hand, you have the multiple ethnic conflicts
and multi-generational, long-lasting stuff that we're talking about. And again, this does come back to British rule and the aftermath there. We've got to close it here. KJ, thank you for being with us. The voice you just heard is KJ No. He's a journalist, political analyst, writer, and teacher specializing in the geopolitics of the Asia-Pacific region. Check out a book he contributed to, Capitalism on a Ventilator, once censored by Amazon. It's available now at iacenter.org. You're listening to Fault Lines with Thomas and Stranahan. We're closing this hour out. We'll be back on the other side of this short break with headlines. See you then. KJ, thank you again for being with us. Really appreciate you being willing to shift this up slightly. Great conversation as always, man.
Thank you. I just
is based on a lie, and I think the scary part.
Can you guys hear me?
Of the work that's got to.
Yeah, Jamarl, you all set?
Yes, all set.
We can start as soon as this.
Okay.
At the bottom of it, that white supremacy always wins, and it is undefeated right now. And I don't know.